And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Friday, finally Friday, January 16th. It's 1:07 in the afternoon. Temperatures outside are in the single digits. We continue to have snow showers move into the area and very windy conditions with reduced visibility at times, near blizzard conditions at times. Not as bad as it was this morning, but we are expecting those winds to actually tick up a few as we head into the evening and early overnight hours. So with that being said, the National Weather Service has extended the winter weather advisory through the overnight hours as blowing snow is going to continue to be a problem. And if you are going to be out and about on the roadways, you're going to hit pockets of near blizzard conditions throughout the area, especially valley eastward. You go west and we're still looking at some pretty messy travel on 94 all the way out through Bismarck, Mandan, and even up into the western part of the state where travel is not advised due to extremely strong winds, 60 miles an hour wind gusts out in the western part of the state, producing blowing snow and near blizzard conditions out there. So all across the area, north, south, east, and west, we're looking at a pretty widespread weather event where, travel not the best. And if you can hold off travel until tomorrow, things will improve as we head into tomorrow afternoon. So, Bridgette, on the road or at home today?
I am not on the road today. As I look at the North Dakota Road Report, and this is a great app. If you don't have it, it's done by North Dakota Department of Transportation. App updates very regularly for you to keep track of what's happening with weather conditions. The very northeast corner of North Dakota, no travel advised. Also, northwest North Dakota, that corner up around Williston, Watford City, no travel advised for you. There is ice on I-94 from Jamestown to Glen Olin. Earlier this morning, there were vehicles stopped west of Mandan because they were stalled out due to ice and really low visibility. They just had to stop. They couldn't see what they were doing. And then ice starting about halfway from Minot to Bismarck and then south to the South Dakota line. That's on Highway 83. So looks pretty rough, especially in that central part of the state. Visibility certainly isn't pleasant in a lot of areas. So make sure to turn your lights on, not just on daytime runners, so we can see your taillights when we're on the roads today. But for those of you who are out there and say, hey, I've got a road report, call us. The JLA Insurance phone line. You can reach us at 701-293-9000. Dean and I would be happy to hear your road reports today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In fact, just even driving around in town here, there was earlier today a couple of cars in ditches I've seen. That was a little more widespread earlier this morning east of the valley into areas of Clay County where they are basically it was a blizzard conditions there. Now, again, for the rest of the afternoon, we are still looking at the blowing snow, falling snow. We're not looking at a whole lot more, but we are going to see some snow showers from time to time through the evening and even into the early overnight hours. So keep that in mind and pack a winter weather survival kit if you are heading out on the roadways. You do not want to get stalled out in this kind of weather, that's for sure. So we'll see temperatures continue to fall. We're in the single digits right now. We'll bottom out near 7 below tonight. And again, occasional snow showers, blowing snow, and we'll have pockets, not constant, but pockets of near blizzard conditions if you're going to be out and about through the evening and early overnight hours. And then a quieter day on Saturday. Again, if you can do your travel on Saturday, that looks to be better, as we're going to see partly to mostly cloudy skies, a lighter northwest wind at about 10 to 20. So there could be some minor blowing of the snow tomorrow, but nothing like today. And highs tomorrow, 0 to 5 below. That's it. And then another clipper system comes our way tomorrow night and into early Sunday. Now, as the snow falls with this next system, the winds won't be that strong. So whatever falls should not be blowing around Saturday night. But by Sunday lunchtime, we get in on the backside of this clipper system, and we're looking at winds 30 to 40 miles an hour and gusting. So that means the snow that fell overnight Saturday night, which is expected to be about an inch, maybe an inch and a half, that will be blowing around, and we'll have, again, poor driving and visibility as we head into Sunday afternoon. So if you have any travel Sunday, especially in the afternoon and evening, conditions are going to go downhill quickly with potential of near blizzard conditions again on Sunday. And then we'll get a couple more Clipper systems coming in later next week. They look relatively weak. And then Arctic air. We're just getting a taste of Arctic air today and tomorrow. True Arctic air hits by the end of next week, where highs will be between about 10 below and nighttime lows about 20 below. So the real coldest air is going to hold off till the end of next week. And in between then, we'll have a few more Clipper systems adding to the snowpack. And again, travel today, not recommended. It's just it's not a great day on the roadways, to say the least. I'm looking at the road reports that you were talking about, Bridgette, and it's showing 29 going north to just south of Grand Forks is okay. I don't know. I'd still be worried about anything, especially east-west roads. But going north, even north and south, you're going to run into these pockets of very low visibility. And again, if you can hold off travel till tomorrow, I would suggest doing that. It'd be a heck of a lot easier for you.
Especially as darkness falls later today. So let's try not to get out there and be in the midst of things that we don't want to be. So meanwhile, let's say it's a day to catch up on the laundry. Well, you can take things on over to the Coral Laundromat. They're over on Veterans Boulevard. Same day service if you want to drop items off. Multiple pay options over there at 3620 Veterans Boulevard. We're talking coin, Apple Pay, Google Pay, credit card, debit card, and more. And they got a fireplace. It sounds delightful versus what Addison is showing on the live stream right now with how blustery it is. That live stream is brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. Lighthouse Commodities is also going to be part of a meeting out in Bismarck on January 20th. That's next Tuesday at the North Dakota Gateway to Science Center. The meeting starts at 10 a.m. and it is a combination of BW Fusion, where they will have speakers Josh Messer, Mark Heck, Jason and Jaron Shaley, and then Lighthouse Commodities, they will have David Spickler be on their agenda. So you can expect some straight talk discussions on markets and agronomy, as well as actionable ideas that apply to North Dakota conditions. If you are curious about that meeting, you can drop me an email, ag@flagfamily.com. I'll put you in touch with those who could get you registered. That inbox again is ag@flagfamily.com. And our inboxes are powered by Superior Grain Equipment, bringing you superior ideas and options for grain handling solutions. And you can reach Dean Weather at flagfamily.com. Much appreciated for all the hard work that these folks do in our region, making sure that you can stay in contact with us, and they can also provide excellent assistance to your farm operation. And again, we're happy to take your calls on the JLA Insurance phone line. Nate Thorsrud, he's a farmer. He knows all of the ins and outs that are coming with the new crop insurance guidelines, and you have to be signed up by March 16th. So give Nate a call. His number is 701-371-0311. Using that JLA Insurance phone line today, we're going to get a Vegas qualifier at some point. Not sure when we'll do it, so you'd better be ready, because we look forward to calling hopefully what is your name and then getting you registered to win the grand prize. We're giving away that grand prize on February 3rd. That will be at Kingpins. That's a Tuesday night. You must be present to win, but it's worth it. You'll have 2 tickets to see The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere in Las Vegas, airplane tickets, hotel stay, and $500 in spending cash. Thank you to Kingpins, All Sagar Meats, as well as Frontier Airlines for making this event happen. And when we come back, I would really like whomever returns from that Vegas trip to give us a call and say, hey, this is what it was like, because I've got an idea what I think it will be like, but I'd love for them to fill us in and tell us how they enjoyed it while they were there.
And it will be a great trip. Well, and you know that Alex and Jay, they went to that Wizard of Oz, and they said it was beyond. And even Jay said, I'm not a huge Wizard of Oz fan. He's like, but this just absolutely blew me away.
Well, and it might literally, because it's interactive. There could even be some wind, so hold on to your seats. We'll be calling out a name for a qualifier for that Vegas vacation sometime here within our hour. And we are so looking forward to our next segment, which is going to be with Gregg Hanson. He is with Hanson Agri-Commodities. We're going to talk about what's going on in the grain markets after we return from the American Ag Network's Livestock Report. Welcome to Friday's Market Uncovered. Gregg Hanson with Hanson Agri Commodities is joining us. And, well, Gregg, it's been quite a week. Where would you like to start the recap before I launch into a list of questions for you?
Well, we might as well go with the obvious. That corn production number caught everybody going, where did they come up with all those bushels?
Yeah.
There was some rumbling that we were going to maybe see an increase in the harvested acre number. And I don't have an issue with that. You talked to a lot of people, and the tonnage they were getting off their silage acres was so big they didn't have to cut as many acres. Well, that's more corn
Mm-hmm.
acres to harvest. Okay, I buy that. Um, the average guess was virtually unchanged. The highest guess we were looking for, I don't know, another 450,000. So I thought, okay, maybe we can get a 500,000 more acres. It was 1.3 million. That's a lot
That
of
was a
additional harvested corn acres to come across.
that's a lot of bins
And
that got emptied out in a surprising way, you might say.
well, that's a lot more corn than we were anticipating. Okay, so that's fine. But typically, your silage corn is your best yielding corn. You would anticipate yield would be less on those bushels. No, we raised our overall yield a half a bushel. Even the highest guess was unchanged. There's been times where the analogy I have is it feels like if all the traders are on a boat, everyone's leaning to one side and that boat is listing to one side. And then sometimes what you'll see is the market will give a report that will be the opposite and it'll correct. The market acted down on corn. That's what happened. It didn't feel like that to me, like we were all leaning to one end. Everyone was looking for lower numbers. But I think when you listen to some of the crop insurance numbers and you just hear different anecdotal reports, yeah, there's good corn out here, but there's some corn that's not as good. And it just felt like that is big. I don't have an issue with a bigger yield if those acres are off. But to have both, I question where their numbers came from. Now, it doesn't matter what I think. This is the final number, unless they make a change probably in the September report when they see the final quarterly stocks. This is the number we're going to use. So we can argue till we're blue in the face that this is not right, but the market's going to trade it going forward. So that's really, every number they gave us on the corn side was not friendly. But I guess, big picture, what does it mean? We go from a 2-0 carry out to a 2-2. If you look at fundamentally, does it change anything? I don't really think so. Fundamentally in the next 6 months, does it change how low we can go? I don't think so. Does it change how high we can go? My model says it doesn't really change it. I mean, whatever price we thought we could get to fundamentally, we still can. Now, there is going to be more corn, especially out here in the West. That's probably a basis issue. So cash markets over time are going to struggle. And there will be more farmers selling on the next rally. I think everyone was caught off guard. I think the next rally, farmers will be more willing sellers. But has it changed the underlying fundamental drastically? My bias today is no. But I still think we can rally. It just might take a little more to get there.
So last week I asked a question for you, and you said, wait, ask me next week after we see the WASDE report. So from a listener, Greg, here we go. Based on this week's activity, is it worth the risk to roll a corn contract right now?
I'm assuming you are, well, I guess it depends on what are we rolling. Are we rolling a basis contract or are we rolling a futures position? My bias
good point.
is,
I didn't have that.
so I think it
detail.
depends on
point.
which one you're talking. I wish I knew which are you long or are you short? I guess let's look at both ways. We'll talk both sides. If you're short, there's carry in the market, so I think you just kind of bide your time and wait a little bit. There should be some opportunity to roll and pick up a little bit. Now, if you're long, if you have a basis contract, and that's what you're talking about, I'm long futures, and I'm going to have to sell and buy a higher one. You might want to do that maybe possibly sooner than later. I don't think the carries are going to get too out of whack. They're really going to be driven by Eastern fundamentals, not Western fundamentals. So it's more about what happens along the river. I think we're just going to kind of chop around in a range. Long term, I do think we're going to have carries in this marketplace because of all the corn we have. But short term, if we can bounce here a little bit, that thing could narrow up some.
Well, I think it's time to be watching and paying attention because we've had so many surprises already. Let's not overlook the fact that more are probably to come. Now, a couple other areas we've talked, certainly this week's report was a surprise to everyone, but then I saw a statement here earlier in the week, pork production and the exports are up. Does that help our beef sector in any way, shape, or form? Because if we're exporting more pork, does that put a little less export pressure on beef? How familiar might you be with that type of situation?
I don't know if that's so much the case. I mean, they're both meats, but they're, where we're exporting pork is not necessarily the same place we'll export meat to. What it does do is more based on your domestic supply.
Sure.
The U.S. hog herd has expanded over time to where we have to have exports. And a lot of people want to always point to, we got to sell to China, sell to China, sell to China. I'm sorry, but Mexico is your biggest customer on pork exports. So it's really sell to Mexico. if and then this has been my fear with all this trade war stuff with Mexico specifically, if you got in a little tit for tat where they don't take as much pork, that's more pork we either have to find a different home for, or we need to
Hmm.
consume it here in the US, and then that's just more competition versus beef. So in the short term maybe that's not a bad thing as far as trying to find protein in general. We know beef is tight. I just went to the local locker this morning and bought 10 pounds of hamburger for it cost me 65 bucks. And I know it's going to be good hamburger because it came from the locker.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but you've heard talks, oh, hamburgers, $9, whatever. We are beef is tight, and eventually we keep thinking someone's going to shift. Mrs. Consumer will shift, and she will start buying more pork and less beef. We haven't seen it yet. Maybe we're starting to, but if we have more pork on supply, I mean, supply man 101. If you have a little more pork on supply, price should be a little cheaper. Will Mrs. Consumer go and make that switch? So short term, it might, that we probably need to see some of that. Long term, we want to increase this cattle herd, and definitely the U.S. consumer shows they prefer the taste of beef over pork. We've definitely seen that in the last year.
Absolutely the truth right there. And actually, with the corn market where it's at, that's actually a positive for beef producers, especially if they want to finish on corn, because that gives you a lower cost. Because if corn ran up, it would probably run up some of our cost of beef on top of that as well. Or am I looking at this too short term? It might be a longer play where that corn
Mm,
price would affect a beef price at the
well,
consumer level.
what you're going to see is with cheaper corn, people can tend to feed that out. They feed their animals longer and put more weight on them. And with where we are with this tight herd, that's the packing industry wants that to happen anyway. They want heavier animals, more meat per
Hmm.
carcass to help fill this hole a little bit. That's why these animals are, just think about in the last 2 years how much bigger these animals have gotten. Part of it is to add more meat to fill the hole from the lack of numbers. But economically, it just becomes a little more feasible to do that. Now those last pounds are the expensive pounds, but of course cheaper. Then hey, that's an alternative. And with as
Hmm.
it'd be different if we were talking a large animal herd. Then things wouldn't make as much sense. But with the tight herd, it does today. But I also think look what feeders did after the report when corn dropped hard. Feeders took off, so it helps. It kind of offsets some of that. If you're someone on the sidelines saying, okay, I've got corn in the bin and I can sell it for here, but I need to go buy my feeder still. Well, you get that report day. Yeah, my corn is cheaper. I can feed it cheaper, but those animals cost more too. So it's kind of a hand in hand relationship in a way that with between those two.
This has been super helpful. Thank you, Greg. We appreciate you joining us for Fridays for Market Uncovered with Gregg Hanson of Hanson Agri Commodities. Greg, what's your contact information for those who want to ask more?
Well, you can always give us a call at 507-338-6433. You can check us out on our Facebook page at Hanson Agri Commodities, or you can check us out on our website at hanson-ag.com.
Thank you, Greg. Much appreciated. Talk to you next Friday. And
Thank you.
for
Have a good
everyone
weekend.
else, thank you. Everybody, hang on. We're going to go through the news and return with more headlines and weather. We'll be back.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:35 in the afternoon. And we're looking at still a lot of blowing snow, some falling snow, reduced visibility. Travel is going to be difficult if you're heading out and about. And the winter weather advisory has been extended through tonight, as we're expecting these winds to remain strong. We were hoping they would calm down a little bit after sunset. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So winter weather advisory extended through tonight. And the National Weather Service has added on a couple more things as well. Cold weather advisory for Saturday. So we're looking at wind chills on Saturday, probably about 20, 25 below during the day. And just to have a little more fun at the party, the Weather Service has just issued a winter storm watch for Saturday night and into Sunday with that second clipper system that is coming our way. So it looks like Saturday is going to be the only quiet day this weekend as things go downhill again Saturday night into Sunday. So again, if you have any travel plans, if you can squeeze those in on Saturday instead of today or Sunday, that would probably be your best bet. And you know, when the weather is like this, who wouldn't want to get away to Vegas? So let's see if we can get somebody qualified for our Valentine's Day Vegas getaway. And today's contestant would be Gordon Gustafson of Fargo. Gordon Gustafson of Fargo. You got 11 minutes to call, 701-293-9000. Again, that's 701-293-9000. Gordon Gustafson of Fargo. If you know Gordon, shoot him a call, shoot him a text. Say, hey, you got 11 minutes to give him a call so you can qualify for that wonderful Vegas getaway. And, yeah, it's days like this, Bridgette, where you want to go south. Although, you know, I was looking and even, you know, a lot of people vacation this time of the year going to let's say Florida. They're expecting the possibility of snow in the Florida Panhandle as we head into the weekend. This cold weather is diving all the way south to the Gulf Coast. And I think we might have Gordon here on line one. Is this Gordon?
Yes, this is.
Gordon, congrats.
All righty.
All right. Have you ever been out to Vegas?
Yeah. My dad used to take me out there, but I wasn't old enough to have any fun.
Oh. Well, I'm sure you're familiar with the Wizard of Oz. Do you know anybody that has been lucky enough to go see that at the Sphere?
No.
Okay. I know our own Jay Thomas went, and he said it was just absolutely mind-blowing. So hopefully you can be the winner, and you are qualified now. And just make sure that you can show up at Kingpins, because the winner does have to be present to win there February 3rd. So, and you know all the rules and regulations on that, right? You've got to be there to win.
Yep.
All right.
I'll be honest. The most important question for Gordon right now is, I'm sure you've seen the movie, Gordon. Did the witches' monkeys scare you too, or was it just me?
No.
I know. As a little kid, they were sort of freaky.
Right. Well, Gordon, congratulations and good luck, and we'll see you out at Kingpins February 3rd.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a great weekend.
You too, bye.
All right. Good deal. Hey, we're on a streak here, aren't we?
We've had several. And you know what? For those who are listening intently, now is also your chance to fill out the fence check assessment. That is at techsupport.farm. Chris Sherman has set that up so you can gauge how's your cybersecurity these days. Are you where you need to be? Well, it's a free assessment. There is no contractual agreement that you have to do anything more than just take a look at it. So again, that is the fence check assessment at techsupport.farm. Go take a look, see if you are as protected as you think you might be. And on a wintry, blustery day, you can be marking your calendar for some better events that are taking place, say like in July. Bell Bank will be hosting their Bell Bank Ag Views Live, and that'll be the third Monday in July. I think that's July 20th. Without looking at a calendar, it's that week. And they do it in 3 different locations, Fargo, Sioux Falls, and usually over in Wisconsin. And it is a very insightful half-day event where you have the opportunity to hear discussions about what's happening to commodities globally, and not just about corn and soybeans. We'll talk about oil, livestock production, really what are some of those geopolitical implications that will be happening. Again, it's a free opportunity to hear Bell Bank's Ag News Live, and if you want to subscribe to their quarterly newsletter, go to bellbank.ag and take a look for signing up on a free subscription for that. Speaking of ag, there's always plenty going on, and one of those things is that Bayer Crop Science is looking to bring out 2 new AIs this year. Now, I want to clarify, sometimes we talk about AI as artificial intelligence, artificial insemination, and right now AI is active ingredient because it is the active ingredient in a potential herbicide. The first is Convintro, and that brings diflufenican, which has long been used in Europe, to corn and soybean systems. And this is a group 12 herbicide. It is intended for that corn and soybean row crop. They are planning to have it labeled for pre-plant or pre-emergence use, and it has very strong performance on water hemp and Palmer amaranth. This chemistry should be available for growing season 2026, depending on regulatory approval from the EPA. We know that that process can be rather long and drawn out. As we've watched more government agencies have less employees, some of that paperwork and regulation gets held up. Bayer's also developing icafloin, which is a new AI for post-emergence weed control, but that's not expected to happen until we get closer to the year 2030. Now, icafloin crops, those are weeds that have been treated by it, appear to be frozen in the field. It's called green death. It is when the herbicide is applied to the plant and the plant is literally stunted, stops growing, does not continue to produce viable seed. So this will be a little bit of a learning curve for some of our producers as well as agronomists. When you walk out into a field and you see a green plant, you worry about the plant competition between the crop and the weed. But in this sense, it may actually be that the weed is already done and not competing with the crop, and it will eventually just collapse into that surface residual layer. This chemistry will provide foliar and residual activity, and it's really shown strong performance on resistant weeds, including Italian ryegrass, which is not necessarily a problem here in our geography, but it certainly has been in the areas further to our south. In the past, discovery of new active ingredients really meant testing very large catalogs of chemistry through manual screenings and long-term greenhouse work. But now, this screening is really focused on specific biological target sites within the plant pest. So those are more of a site of action than an overall mode of action. And the next frontier in the chemistry world is figuring out how to leverage those large data sets and using AI, the artificial intelligence, to make that discovery process faster. In the past, it was easy to find that it was a 10-year process from the discovery of the molecule until it actually was in a package ready to be sold into a farmer's hands. That was a 10-year time period and usually had a cost attributed to it of in the neighborhood of $285 million of investment before you even got to the point of recouping any of your costs. Now, through some of this more rapid discovery, using more site-specific findings, as well as putting those data sets through some artificial intelligence, we may be able to speed that up and reduce the cost that it takes in order to bring those molecules from discovery to the field, because that cost of failure, well, that's pretty enormous. And one of the other things that goes along with that, we are seeing that in some areas, researchers not only are promoting cover crops, but they are still looking to show folks that sometimes the only way to prove there's no resistance to a weed is with hard, cold steel. So tillage is still happening in a number of areas across the U.S. Cover crops can be useful at different times throughout the growing season, but from time to time, depending on your soil types, we may have to go back to tillage in some form just to make sure that our weed control is as top-notch as it can be. Also, tillage is improved because you now have tillage that is just as precision and variable rate effective as your fertilizer and your seeding, which means when I got booted off of a cultivator because I had too much cultivator blight going on in the corn, that won't happen anymore. It's all GPS guided. You can have section control, and it's going to do just a marvelous job versus what some of us did as kids out there in the field. We're going to talk about more headlines. Keep an eye on that windy, cold, and certainly snowy weather for you as the hour rolls on. So it's stick with us. We'll be back with more shortly.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. 1:49 in the afternoon. We've got temperatures 8 degrees outside, a very strong northwest wind producing sub-zero wind chills, and our winter weather advisory has been extended through tonight. Now, looking outside, if you're watching us on our live stream, it doesn't look too bad out there right now, but again, these conditions change rapidly, and again, we're going to see times when clear. In fact, I'm seeing blue sky right now temporarily, and we're going to see this where visibility is just fine for a short period of time, and then we get back into the snow showers and blowing snow and reduced visibility with near blizzard conditions. So we're going to be in and out of this in terms of the reduced visibility through the evening hours. And again, after sunset, it's going to be a little more difficult to see. So if you are going to be traveling this evening, make sure to have a winter weather survival kit packed in your vehicle. Again, that winter weather advisory extended through tonight, and a winter storm watch has just been issued now for Saturday night into Sunday with our next Clipper system that's coming our way. That'll produce more snow and very windy conditions again. So Sunday travel is going to be affected across the area as well. So we just we're getting payback from Mother Nature after a very quiet first half of the month, Bridgette.
Well, that is apparently the plan that Mother Nature's got in store for us. But, all right, on a cold, blustery day, let's have a little history lesson. Now, grain elevators, we see them whenever we leave town, and they dominate the skyline in so many of our prairie communities, along with the church steeple and the water tower. But those grain elevators, they really revolutionized the transportation system for grain across the countryside. Before elevators, farmers would harvest their crop and then put the crop into individual sacks and then have to haul it into the elevator. Every time that you didn't haul it right away to your grain merchant, the rodents, moisture, and spoilage problems were really common. But then when you started taking it into town as well, every time you brought in a load of grain sacks, there was an individual negotiation on just that particular load of grain. What happened is we started to see elevators on the rise, literally. They were steam powered to begin with, and they were built on lake cities like Buffalo and Chicago, Kansas City. Think about those as the places that sprang up with boards of trade, like the Chicago Board of Trade. And so there were now these steam engine powered bucket elevators and conveyors that lifted the grain directly out of boats, out of wagons, even later on out of rail cars, and put it in the tall vertical bins. The grain was loose, it wasn't in sacks, and so you could move bulk loads much more easily. This bulk handling demanded a new approach to quality as well. You know, the old method, eyeballing each of the sacks, keeping the lots separate, wasn't going to work anymore. So elevators pushed the system towards formal grading standards so they could commingle grain from a variety of sources. So again, this really helped move cities like Chicago into developing big markets for wheat and corn and other grains. And they were using more measurable factors like moisture, damage, test weight, and even foreign material. Truly, the elevator era created the modern concept of basis and carry. That's the difference between a country elevator's bid and the terminal or futures price, which could be understood as basis. That would capture freight costs, handling, margin, local supply, demand, etc. Additionally, elevators also made it practical to store grain over time. So that way you didn't have to sell right away. You could hold the grain and you could sell in times where the price was higher. So it gave notion to that carry. So with commercial storage in place, you could defer delivery, you could have forward contracting. So many things changed because we started using these wooden elevator systems that have now evolved again. We see more elevators that have been torn down that were made of wood because they have become damaged, because they have a higher propensity for fires and dust explosions. And so now we've moved into structures that have better ventilation, concrete, steel, and the engineers have certainly put them into better designs. So even though we're seeing some of those older elevators, also they're very small, smaller capacities, they have moved into these new concrete and steel looking designs. So really, elevators really shaped our grain markets to where we are today. And it was a big changeover for farmers being able to haul that grain and again, hold it for a longer term storage, have those forward contracts for better pricing. It's really been quite a history of an industry over the years. And more of that will probably be coming in the future as we watch the evolution of it. And you think about just 30 years ago, it was new to start having sorry, had to sneeze. There were shuttle car loaders. And now, the shuttle car loaders at the time were so much smaller. Like there was a 52 car loader. Now we're at 110. And just the size and capacity of our elevators and our rail systems have changed with what we can do now as well. So there you go. Fun little history lesson for those of you who never thought about it before. Why we have some of those elevators and the reasons that they have come to fruition from the past.
Interesting.
So there, I don't mind some history now and then. Let's see. There's probably some other things that I want to make sure to touch on this week. One of them is that University of Minnesota, they're hosting a soil compaction seminar. I know that maybe doesn't sound exciting, but it does actually make quite a bit of sense. That event is coming up starting early in February. That will be called the Northern Soil Compaction Conference. It is actually a 4-day virtual webinar. When you think about soil compaction, we often reference that back to really wet soils, wet times of the year. We're taking heavy equipment over the top of it. It's compressing our soil layers. And so your crop doesn't have a place for its roots to expand out for good growth, stability within the plant, and the chance to find the nutrients that it needs. So if we can combat the compaction, it helps us to have a better crop. So the first of these series will start on February 3rd. They're going to talk about those soil compaction causes and then move into some symptomology, also the soil machine equipment management, as well as avoidance and alleviation of compaction. There are certified crop advisor CEUs available for this webinar course. And so you can register for it again, it's being done with the University of Minnesota. It's for those all across the US and Canada. If you are interested in registering for this, I would be very happy to give you the registration. You can drop me that email, ag@flagfamily.com. My email inbox is powered by Superior Grain Equipment.
And Bridgette, we've got Kevin on line one. He's got a question for you. Kevin, go ahead.
Sure.
Hey, Bridgette, good to hear again. What's the biggest elevators you've ever seen? What state? I custom combined back in 77. I would say Kansas.
Kansas right now has a world record holder. It's one of the terminal elevators down there. I remember doing a focus on the field for it earlier this summer. So I don't remember the grain capacity. I could probably go back and find my notes on it. But yeah, Kansas has some tremendously large elevators. A lot of that has to do with their rail transportation system to be able to move vast quantities of grain. Much of that was actually built on the wheat crop, like you were custom combining, before there was ever the discussion about Kansas corn and soybeans, is my guess.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I've been, up through Nebraska and stuff. These things were huge. And we hauled in.
Yes.
We started at Hill City, Kansas. And I go, oh, my God, these things are huge. Anyway, I was just curious what you guys have seen.
Yeah, the world record holder is in Kansas. It might even be close to Manhattan. But it was not just a million bushels. It was multi-million bushels. And right now, a million bushels of storage capacity at an elevator is not uncommon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
All right. That was an interesting question. So the world record is in Kansas.
It is. I'll have to go find out where it's at, but yeah, it is.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus. If you're out and about, drive safe. Make sure to have the headlights on. We've seen numerous cars pass the interstate here without their headlights on. Make sure those are on in this inclement weather. The Jay Thomas Show, that's coming up next.
Driveway, sidewalk, or patio, those